Welcome to Sam Conversation, a program of South Asia Monitor. आज एक बड़ी बढ़िया एक किताब है, यादें पुरानी, जो लेफ्टिनेंट जनरल मुकेश सभरवाल ने लिखी है। थोड़ा सा इनका परिचय मैं देता हूं। हम एक दूसरे को लड़कपन से जानते हैं, वही स्कूल में पढ़े, सेंट कोलंबस न्यू दिल्ली, फिर नेशनल डिफेंस एकेडमी, इंडियन मिलिट्री एकेडमी और इंडियन आर्मी। मुकेश कमीशन हुए राजपूत रेजिमेंट में और सिर्फ 1971 की लड़ाई से 6 महीने पहले कमीशन हुए थे, तो उस लड़ाई में बकायदा ये शामिल थे। और उसके बाद दोनों पाकिस्तान और चीन के साथ जो हमारे बॉर्डर्स हैं उन पर काफी सर्विस रही इनकी, और उत्तर पूर्वांचल में, नॉर्थ ईस्ट में, मणिपुर में भी। और ये इतनी बड़ी बड़ी शानदार फौजी मूंछों के पीछे एक तगड़ा सैनिक है, और उसके पीछे एक मन है जो भरा हुआ है प्यारी यादों और जिंदगी की बहुत प्यारी यादों से, रोमांचकारी किस्सों कहानियों से। तुम्हारी कविताओं से बुनी हुई पुरानी यादें एक सैलाब सा लाई, कुछ बहुत हंसी और कुछ आंसू के साथ इस लंबे सुहाने सफर पर ले जाने के लिए मुकेश सभरवाल, आपका बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया।
थैंक यू अनिल, थैंक यू वेरी मच।
मैं आपसे ज्यादा अभी नहीं, अभी मैं आपको दरख्वास्त करूंगा कि शुरू हो जाइए जिस सिरे से आप होना चाहते हैं।
Anil, like I was mentioning when you had asked me to talk about this book is actually a culmination of a lot of work. Means I've been writing poems right since I was in the army as a young officer. तब से शुरू किया है, ये वाला किस्सा तो तब से चल रहा है. Especially when you are sitting on top of a mountain alone and various thoughts come to your mind. That's how this whole journey started. And I used to write for various journals in the army, like the Infantry Journal and College of Combat, etc. But then, as time grew, the time was not so much to delve into this with the military commitments. But once on retirement, this whole passion, kind of re-energized, and there I was starting writing again. Initially, as you know, I used to write mostly in English. But after that, I realized that काफी लोगों को हिंदुस्तानी में भी दिलचस्पी थी, तो खुद भी I realized कि ये वाला भी मीडियम एक ट्राई करना चाहिए, and I delved into this one. And then came COVID. अब COVID के अंदर टाइम और भी ज्यादा मिला, and I started doing this. And one day my young daughter Ritika, she told me कि डैड आप ये सिर्फ लिख ही जा रहे हो, why don't you come on to narrating these things. So then she put me on to this YouTube channel, and there I started narrating and recording my poems. So as time grew, in the last 4-5 years, I've written many poems in all. And like I mentioned, pehle English mein tha, phir Hindustani. Then I delved into Punjabi as well, because that is your original mother tongue. And so that's how this whole silsila grew. And then finally, this friends like you and others who had been reading these poems and enjoying it on YouTube, they said, yaar, isko ek kitab mein kyun nahi publish karte ho, so that we can in one go at leisure read and these poems. And that is how this book came about.
बहुत बहुत खुशी की बात है. I'm glad you did that because it's a wonderful compilation, and although we've been hearing hearing those verses one by one, but yeah, they're all there. They're there in the English script and the Devnagari script. And as you said, they're in Hindustani and they're in Punjabi. Um, Delightful ones. Um, and they bring back wonderful memories. स्कूल की तो जो हैं सो हैं, आर्मी की भी हैं, लेकिन सबसे अर्ली डेज की हैं. कंचे खेले थे, गुल्ली डंडा
True.
खेला था.
That's true.
Kanche, gulli danda. They bring back memories of those days also.
Yeah, actually, what
Whatever
I've
games
done,
we played in school, those are played in school, but these are the kind of games we had the chance of playing in our neighborhoods. And
true.
uh,
Actually, Anil, the nostalgia is one part of the book and all, but my military section, which is the initial section,
yes,
is that comes from having served with the troops in high altitude and various other terrains, very difficult terrain.
yes, yes,
Having seen their the plight of the Indian Army soldier, and actually, when I talk in my poems, mostly it's not only the army; it is applicable to the Air Force, Navy, any kind of soldier, airman, or sailor. So, in fact, the first poem which really uh, was very close to my heart and how it started was this poem called The Army Man, and that is the first poem in this book. Uh, I was sitting on a post at 12,000 feet on the Pir Panjal ranges, and there was this snowbound. Javan's ka, as you are aware, the chutti and all is very, very, it's very difficult to go. And once there is a Jawan who comes back and tells me, sir, mera ye wala problem hai, kuch something. And we wrote to the normal thing to the SP and to the DC, vagera, which is the normal drill which we follow as a company commander or something. But saal guzar gaya, no reply, nothing at all. And when he came back also from chutti, he mentioned the same thing, sir, koi sunwai nahi. That got me thinking that, here is an army guy, a soldier who's sitting on these 12,000 feet high mountains, as a sentinel for the motherland. And when he goes back, there is no sunwai. The army man is looked after when there is, some calamities and things like that. But when it comes to peacetime, then you are back to square one. The lines which, kind of explain this or some this thing. The poem brings this out. I just say a few lines of those.
please, please.
So it says, war, horror strikes, the nation jolts. Sacred citizens run for shelter, to safety. Towards the border with purpose moves the soldier with honor. Blood, guts, and sacrifice ensure victory. Peace is restored by the army men. But then they say, protecting what? Guarding whom? A piece of terrain? Barren, inhospitable, worthless? Well, I say no. His motherland he protects, his citizens he guards, the army man. And the final thing which I say is that he protects his motherland, his own land he forfeits. Because away in the village, the law cares but little. He may incur disability or lose a limb due frostbite or jaundice. Who cares anyway? For some of them say he's paid for the job, isn't he? He seeks no reward, material or otherwise. His karma he performs with honor and pride. Yet he longs sometimes, for he's human after all, for the love of his countrymen. Yes, he does, the army man. This is how, these poems, then I started writing more to do with so initial journey was like more with the poems related to the army.
And when you hearing this, one can't but, it comes all back to you that uh, those of us who served in Indian Army, I think we are fortunate to have commanded the best, and I'll have no hesitation in saying the best troops in the world, and who were acknowledged twice in the First World War and the Second World War. They weren't our wars or whatever, but there were 1.25 million in the First World War and 2.5 million in the Second World War. Indian soldiers who won both those wars for the Allies. They
That's
were the
true.
winning factor. And it's their sons and grandsons and maybe great grandsons who are serving and who've done the country proud thereafter, after independence, since today, till date.
Absolutely. You see, the whole purpose, it's not, while you write, there is always a thought behind. That's what I wanted to convey. So this book, the military section brings out not only that the kind of work they've done are, and it's tribute to the soldiers, not only say to the, I've written a couple of poems on the infantry soldier, being an infantryman, of course. uh, but there are certain things which the general public, they do respect the army men. There is no doubt. When I say army men, it means all the people in uniform, especially after Ops Sindoor. You would have seen the kind of work they've done and how the army man is respected. But at times, I feel, and this comes around in one of my poems. It's called Yes, I Am the Soldier's Beret. The beret I'm using, for people who don't know, it's like the cap which we wear as uniformed people. And that is used as a muse. But I'm trying to say that we, salute, we do all that type of thing. But when a person comes back in the tricolor wrapped, and we put the beret, his medals, and all for valor. But the last part which I write in my poem is significant. I thought I'd just mention that, and that it says is, for my wearer, though it is sad but true, where is the respect that is rightfully his due? Day and night, he struggles and he strives. Applaud him, dear citizens, while he's still alive. Be assured that his karma he will gladly perform for the love of his country and the uniform. Yes, I am the soldier's beret. So this was another, kind of poem on the thing that although our citizenry and the people respect you, and they kind of think of you in terms of war, and they love you and give you all the respect. But what I'm trying to say is that even during peacetime or something, that is where it is also required. And this poem was kind of bringing that out. So that's what I was trying to make out, that my poems have been, they might look biased towards the military, but that's what I am, a military man. And therefore, a number
No,
of
no,
those.
I don't think there should be any hesitation. If it's a bias towards the military, having done our time there, it's a, it is a very, very rewarding. Well, let's say both of us we've survived, we're alive to tell our tales. Uh, there a number of them, us who are not with us, you know.
That's true. And sometimes, like you like to tell the people of a country whom precisely what the armed forces do is defend the nation and do it for protecting their citizens in times of adversity and stuff like that. So, but sometimes then one day I realize, I want to give like an assurance to the people that we are there. Sometimes I find there's a little bit of fear factor which comes into, God knows what will happen, maybe if the enemy attacks or something like that. So with that in mind, I wrote another one, and this one is in Hindustani. And it goes like, it's like an ashvasan to the people, to the nagriks, to the, of the country itself.
Yes, yes.
It is called Sarhad Par Sena Baithi Hai. सरहद पर सेना बैठी है। मैं कल भी था, मैं आज भी हूं। फिर गम में डूबे शहरी क्यों, बेचैन न हो, मायूस न बन, सरहद पर सेना बैठी है। मासूम की जानें ले लेकर आतंकी सीना तानते हैं। लाचार हैं वो, दुश्वार हैं वो, सद्बुद्धि कहीं गवा बैठे। जब जब दुश्मन ललकारा है, तब तब उसको पछाड़ा है। जब जब दुश्मन ललकारा है, तब तब उसको पछाड़ा है। अगर आंख उठाकर वो देखे, उसे नयन मुक्त करा देंगे। उसे नयन मुक्त करा देंगे। ये सेना हिंदुस्तान की है, चाहत केवल बलिदान की है। तुम सो सको सुख चैन के संग, जिम्मा संभालें सैनिक हम। रात तनिक लंबी तो क्या, रात तनिक लंबी तो क्या, सुबह अभी आती होगी। बेचैन न हो, मायूस न बन, सरहद पर सेना बैठी है। सरहद पर सेना बैठी है। This was like an assurance to the people that we are there. Don't you worry.
No, no, very moving. Most moving. It's a very, very sad commentary that we have, and that some of our politicians have stooped so low as to, you know, make make some most awful comments on the army. Lesser said, the better.
But I still believe that by and large, our citizens understand the the kind of work the armed forces do,
No
and
doubt, no doubt.
and that is what is more important and relevant to us than the other things which keep on coming into life. That is different, and then that is how I just touch upon, in the some of the poems which I've made in that Hindustani section. There are some things on thoughts on life, and this book also, there is a number of them which I've covered away from, say, the forge, but in times of like perceptions, like you just mentioned, who one particular polity they are thinking in different manner, the other people thinking about it differently. But I wrote one saying कि नजरिया अलग है. This poem is on perceptions,
Yes.
Same thing, but people perceive it differently. एक छोटी सी जो उसकी बात है, लाइक वो कहते हैं कि स्कूल की घंटी की आवाज अब वो कभी नहीं बदलती है. इट्स कभी ना बदलना. सुनकर बच्चों का मजबूरन क्लास से निकलना. दे गो टूवर्ड द क्लास व्हेन दे हेयर द बेल. लेकिन दोपहर को सुन घंटी, वही द सेम बेल इज रिंगिंग इन द आफ्टरनून. नाउ उत्साह की लहर का उठना. घंटी तो वही है, सिर्फ नजरिया अलग है. नाउ दैट सेम घंटी की आवाज सुबह इट इज गिविंग यू अ डिफरेंट थिंग. इन द आफ्टरनून for the kid is very good, but he's going home and he can go and play and things like that. So the point is that perceptions can change, and like a simple thing of a matches. अब माचिस से अक्सर वो कहते हैं सिगरेट का जलाना. You're an old smoker. माचिस का अक्सर सिगरेट का जलाना, अंगीठी में माचिस से आग भी जलाना. You burn a light a fire with the matches. बट उसी माचिस से उग्रवादी का तबाही मचाना. Now he uses the same matches to detonate something and blast something. So माचिस तो वही है, सिर्फ अंजाम अलग है. So I'm talking of perceptions in this particular poem, and that's something which, thoughts which keep coming up, and then how I just thought I'd put them down and put them onto paper. And so this was one of the poems, which talked about thoughts in general and about life.
How about uh, reciting a Punjabi one?
See, oh yeah, sure. But Punjabi one, I'll just tell you how again. When I was at home during, especially during COVID times. Then those memories which get you, and और कुछ तो था नहीं, so you would talk on the phone to all our friends, schoolmates, classmates, all these chaps, especially who've been with us, since ages we've been together. And we've been, being a Delhiite, as you understand, our memories are tied to that. And those days of those 50s, 60s, and 70s, they had a different kind of a charm altogether. So, uske upar I wrote a series of poems. It's called Dilli Diya Yada and Karol Bagh Di Chalkiyan.
Oh,
And the third one,
shabash.
and there was what, uh, Dilli Di Jawani Di Galla, Dilli Di Yada Te Jawani Di Galla. So
Yeah,
these
yeah.
were, but I mean, instead of going into all, but I just two paragraphs only, which will give you the essence, like of that times which we spent. One it says is, ਕਰੋਲ ਬਾਗ ਦੇ ਬਾਜ਼ਾਰਾਂ ਦੀ ਯਾਦਾਂ ਨੇ ਪੱਕੀਆਂ, ਬਾਂਟੇ ਵਾਲਾ ਸੋਡਾ ਤੇ ਬਰਫ਼ ਦਾ ਗੋਲਾ, ਗੋਲ ਗੱਪੇ ਚਾਟ ਨਾਲ ਛੋਲੇ ਭਟੂਰੇ ਤੇ ਰੋਸ਼ਨ ਦੀ ਕੁਲਫੀ ਦੀ ਗੱਲਾਂ ਨੇ ਵੱਖਰੀਆਂ. Those were the things which you probably remember, and those who've been in those areas, they remember that thing. And the next one was that Janpath te rambles, the CP di Shan. You remember Janpath and rambles? That were the areas we used to literally go.
Yes, of course.
So Janpath te rambles si, CP di Shan, Dipal's the coffee si, Raju di pehchan. And who can forget Raju? And Wenger's the patty te Kona coffee da jar. फिर गिगल्स तो लेना, कार्ड फॉर मेरी जान, और साडी जवानी तेरे ते कुर्बान, ओ मेरी दिल्ली तू है आलीशान. These were the Punjabi ones which also got. And then I started getting into these, got a lot of good response, so I added a few more of these.
Of course, because you captured the best times of Delhi. The best times of Delhi, because we saw in the days with the 50s and 60s. In the 50s, in the Lutyens, Delhi, most of the cars were black, and in summer most of the clothes were white, and it's only in the winter that they were little colorful. And
True.
then as we went, 60s was a little different. A little more cars that were made in India started coming onto the roads, and 50s they were all black, and they were mostly British cars.
Correct. But
Anyway, and there weren't
bring
all these horrible scenes of pollution, smog. We did live in some very good times in Delhi. And I think
true.
as far as memories are concerned, there's one event which I think made a great impact on our lives. If you recall, in 1965, the war was in September. The India-Pakistan war was in September. And in November, Major Bhaskar Roy of the 20th Lancers, who was awarded the Mahavir Chakra, he came to Delhi to receive it. And he was recently married then, and he came with his wife to school. He's an old campan.
I know that
And
is that
Brother
what,
Tynan, who was the vice principal then, he very proudly took him to all our classrooms, and in every classroom he introduced him and said, "Here's Major Bhaskar Roy. He's done us very proud. He's done the country proud. He's done the school proud, And can you remember now how many of us made a beeline for the National Defense Academy then?
true. That is absolutely correct. I remember that. And so these are the, when I talk about nostalgia, it's one thing, but then also when I was writing this, at times some other things, which are very serious and things which happened. We lost a lot of people, not during COVID and during just before that, and things like.
Yes.
And then one day this thought came to me when I lost a lot of close friends, and I wrote one poem called Maut Se Chunauti.
Huh?
You know, that's a challenging death. I said death is, it's absolute. It's the absolute truth. You can't do anything about it. But there is something, I said, why can't I challenge it? You agreed. You can come and take away our lives. When I'm saying it's part of the system. But there are certain things which I can challenge, you can't take away. I'm kind of challenging death. And I'm telling this, कि यादें तो हैं हमारी अमानत ना, that you cannot take away from me.
Take away from us.
हाँ, you cannot take it. मैं कर ले कितनी भी कोशिश, कुछ चीजें तुम छू सकती नहीं. यादें तो हैं अपनी ही अमानत, ये तो रहेंगी हमेशा संग हमारे, खुशी में साथ गुजारे हुए दिन और गम में बिताए लम्हे उनके बिन. So I took this to took this idea, and then I wrote this बहुत को चुनौती. That means challenging के यार, you can take away our lives, but for our friends and for our family and all, you can't take away our the nostalgia, the यादें जो हमारे साथ हैं. So this book actually, since I wrote in different, I also put it in Roman, because a lot of guys who don't understand the Devnaagri script. And the Saber and Quill, of course, have done a damn good job of this book, publishing it for me. Very grateful to them. And I must say, since we are talking about the book, it's my daughter Ritika who really, I did the writing part and everything, but she was the main force behind getting this book into what it is today. Got it alive, and really have to thank her for this whole thing. But I'm also grateful that you've decided, and you mentioned that you would we'll talk about this book, because it is relevant not only to the Fauji's but to the general people at large. And there's nostalgia. Of course, there are two poems on NDA. One is in Hindustani and one is in English. The English one, of course, is on that famous Sound of Music. These are a few of my favorite things. So based on that song, I'd put this one, Memories of NDA, my favorite thing. So those are, for all the ex-NDAs, I'm sure they'll be able to relish all those days of our cadet days, what we went through. So those have been covered in some of these. And overall, it was good fun writing the whole thing. But now that it is come out in print, so it feels nice. And especially, friends like you, whom we've been associated for since ages.
You need to be thanked for giving us some wonderful moments. Whenever we read them over the last couple of years or more, as we kept receiving them, there's so many memories. There are so many memories, and we saw the very good times of Delhi. We saw good times of our school also, St. Columbus, quite well known for some very good students, and well known for very, very few not so good students. I won't say names here. But then of course, whatever you captured about the army is something which, again, it's a kind of book which will, not only we soldiers, but others also will enjoy reading. Any thoughts before we wind up?
No, thank you very much. It's been nice talking to you, and and hope people who read this will
yes,
relish it. So that's all.
More and more, we hope the book gets circulated well. Thank you very much, Mukesh. Thank you.
Thanks, Anil. Thank you very much.